Good evening. Today is Monday, November the 20th, and this is the Board of Education business meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first item will be to the presentation of colors by the Northwest Cabarrus High School Air Force JROTC, and our national anthem will be sung by the Cox Mill High School Vocal Ensemble. Please stand. The presentation of colors this evening was presented by the Northwest Cabarrus High School Air Force JROTC. The cadets that were presenting the colors were Cadet First Lieutenant Mason Berger, Cadet Senior Airman Mariah Steele, Cadet Airman First Class Carter Landry, Cadet Airman First Class Annabella Skikas, Cadet Airman Leanne Benfield, Cadet Airman Hunter Lovell. The cadets were instructed by Lieutenant Colonel retired Calvin Martin and Master Sergeant retired Corinne Smith. The national anthem was sung by the Cox Mill High School Vocal Ensemble. The ensemble consisted of Miles Arnold, Jarrell Bell, Isabella De Petro, Juliette Harris, Allison McGee, Rachel Peterson, Naomi Rabinowitz, Megan Thorncock, and Zion Zalakoffer. Let's give them a great big applause, and they did such a wonderful job. Thank you. Board members, we've come to the point where we need to adopt an agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Do we have an addition? Were you going to make a motion? Mr. Walter makes a motion to do the election for the board.
make an addition, like to make an addition to the agenda to do after the closed session, to make, for us to come out of closed session to consider appointment to the, for the replacement of our board member for discussion after.
Yeah, can I clarify, is that to name someone tonight, or just the process?
No, just the process
Okay.
that we're going, this is after we've had discussion from the attorney in closed session for us to decide what our process is going to be. But this is after we come out of closed session.
So you're saying the last item?
Yes.
Well, yeah, this
It'll-
last item.
It'll be after closed session, item number, after we reconvene, item 12. This would be 12.1. I mean, it'd be after 13. 13 is the approval. It'd be 13.1. 13.3, is that? Yes. 13.3 would be to the addition to the agenda, which would be to discuss the, have the replacement discussion for Tim Furr's empty seat. And Mr. Harrison, did you make the second on that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any discussion on that motion?
So what are we discussing in closed session?
In closed session, we were to have a conversation, have Rich talk to us about what our legal responsibilities are and the, just the pieces about the law, just the options, and then we would come out and actually talk about how to do this.
The process itself is a protected topic or a closed session topic?
Legal advice on the process.
Legal advice on,
On the process,
Only on the process, not the actual process,
not the process.
okay? All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there, let's vote on it. All in favor of approving this agenda addition, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, so it carries 6-1. 5-1, yep, I'm sorry. I'm so automatic, and so that's 5-1 with Mr. Powell dissenting. All right, now we go to, is there a motion now to approve the amended agenda? Yeah, so Mr., so Mr. Walter now makes a motion to approve the amended agenda. And Mr. Harrison makes the second. All in favor of approving the amended agenda as written, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, so that carries 5-1. Mr. Powell dissenting. All right, now we move on to the Hilbish Ford Teachers of the Month. Mr. Tim Vaughn is not going to be here with us, but Miss Glenda Jones and Mr. Chris Louder will be, so.
Thank you. But as always, we say thank you to him and to Hilbish Ford for their sponsorship of this program that allows us to honor an outstanding teacher each month. Tonight, I am pleased to introduce Mrs. Alyssa Gully, a first grade teacher at Pitt School Road Elementary School, as our Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month for November. Mrs. Gully, would you, your family, and any members of your school's administrative team who are here tonight, please come forward? Mrs. Gully was nominated for this award by a parent who wrote, Mrs. Gully is an excellent teacher. My 9-year-old son had her in first grade, and now my 6-year-old son is in her class. We are so impressed with her ability to create a loving and nurturing learning environment for all of her students. Mrs. Gully has a passion for teaching, and it's evident when our boys come home excited about what they have learned and eager to show us. She's encouraging our son and has helped him feel more confident in his reading, math, and writing abilities. Mrs. Gully is fantastic! We are so lucky to have her in our lives. Mrs. Gully, thank you for creating a wonderful learning environment that inspires confidence and excitement in your students. Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Month. Please allow Dr. Louder to present you with your awards, and then let our board members congratulate you. Let's get a photo first.
Our next item on the agenda is 4.2, which is the Impact Through Education Awards. Ms. Ronnie Boone is going to present those.
Good evening. Tonight we will recognize Impact Award winners for November, and we'll finish up our Impact recognitions from September when we had to cancel because of inclement weather. The schools with honorees tonight are Bethel Elementary, Cabarrus Early College of Technology, and Cox Mill High School. We'll begin tonight with Bethel Elementary School. I'd like to invite any members of the school's administrative team to come forward at this time. Our first honoree from Bethel Elementary School this evening is Colt Campbell. Would Colt and his family please come forward? That's okay. Colt demonstrates to others what being a Bethel Bengal is all about: good character, a positive attitude, integrity, and a commitment to learning. Colt's work ethic is also something to be proud of. He attacks every assignment with studiousness, a quest to learn, and gives everything he does a 100% effort. He seeks out leadership positions and is a member of the Safety Patrol and the Bethel Morning News. Colt is being a role model for all Bethel Bengals. Congratulations, Colt. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Bethel Elementary School. Our next honoree from Bethel is Claire Fisher. Would Claire and her family please come forward? Claire is a sweet, respectful girl with excellent manners and a bright, sunny attitude. She's quick to praise others and always carries a smile on her face. You might say that she lights up the halls of Bethel Elementary School. When others are off task, Claire remains focused. When someone makes a wrong choice, you will find her exemplifying the expectations. She is a true Bethel Bengal, a leader in the classroom and in the school, as evidenced by her membership on the school safety patrol. Congratulations, Claire. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Bethel Elementary School. Our next honoree from Bethel Elementary is Mrs. Karen Wright. Would Mrs. Wright and her family please come forward? Karen Wright is the art teacher at Bethel Elementary School. The staff at Bethel were proud to describe her as not only a fantastic art teacher, but a great role model for students. She's very involved in the learning community and plans activities to involve all students and their families, including monthly art contests and after-school clubs. Mrs. Wright has a vision for total school improvement and uses art as the medium for making connections with kids, connections that allow students to believe in themselves. She consistently goes above and beyond, and Bethel Elementary would not be the same without her. Congratulations, Mrs. Wright, and thank you for making an impact through education at Bethel Elementary. Congratulations. And our final honoree this evening from Bethel Elementary School is Mrs. Emma Glosson. Would Mrs. Glosson and her family please come forward? Emma Glosson is a teacher assistant at Bethel Elementary School. Staff members share that Mrs. Glosson is the most caring, loving TA around. She not only works with kids in small groups every day, but she also made sure to set up her own classroom area, fully decorated, to make the kids feel more at home when they are working with her. Mrs. Glosson works with a partner church to ensure that less fortunate students receive a weekly food bag. She also serves as the PLC chair for the TAs and as a member of the Bethel Social Committee. Mrs. Glosson's positive attitude radiates throughout Bethel, and she uses that positive attitude to impact so many. Simply put, she is amazing, and so is Bethel because of her contributions. Congratulations, Mrs. Glosson, and thank you for making an impact at Bethel Elementary. Next up, we will recognize students and staff members from the Cabarrus Early College of Technology. I'd like to invite any administrators from the Cabarrus Early Tech to come forward, please. Our first honoree this evening is Deanna Montoya Alvarado. Would Deanna and her family please come forward? Deanna is a sophomore at Cabarrus Early College of Technology. In the classroom, she shows quick wit and deep intelligence. She puts effort into her schoolwork and has shown tremendous academic growth in all of her classes. Outside of the classroom, she serves as the vice president of the Student Government Association, where she organizes and helps run a variety of school functions. She works hard in this pursuit and has proven to be a dependable leader. Deanna is an excellent example of a Cabarrus Tech student, both inside and outside the class. As said perfectly by one of her teachers, she's always available to help her peers by offering a listening ear or helping them with schoolwork. Deanna goes above and beyond to make Cabarrus Tech a better place, and that is why she was selected for this Impact Through Education Award. Congratulations, Deanna. Our next honoree from Cabarrus Early College of Technology is Malia Curley. Would Malia and her family please come forward? Malia is a freshman at Cabarrus Early College of Technology. She is a determined and dedicated student driven by a passion for learning and success. Malia is always willing to lend a helping hand to her fellow students, whether it is explaining a challenging concept or being a good listener. Recently, Malia received the Cobra Who Cares Award. The student who nominated her wrote, "Malia is a very smart person overall, and she uses her knowledge to help others. She's always giving me tips and advice on how to be a star student. Anytime I don't understand something, she makes sure I understand before we move on." Malia is not only an excellent student, but she is also an active member of the Cobra Service Club, where she has participated in and coordinated projects at Remedy Church and Jeff Gordon Children's Hospital. Malia is absolutely a student who has a positive impact at Cabarrus Tech. Her academic work and care for others is why she was chosen to receive this award. Congratulations, Malia. Our next honoree is Ms. Amanda Hooser. Would Ms. Hooser and her family please come forward? Amanda Hooser started her teaching career in 2012 as a social studies teacher at the Cabarrus Kannapolis Early College. She made the move in 2016 to help open Cabarrus Tech. Mrs. Hooser is an invaluable member of the staff and wears many hats. As a classroom teacher, she rocks. Her classroom is one that is full of energy with engaging, thought-provoking lessons. Students leave Mrs. Hooser's class with more than just content knowledge. They leave with the 21st century skills that will make them successful adults. She has also been instrumental in developing and refining the school's seminar courses for each grade level so students have what they need to be ready for college, career, and life. Outside the classroom, Mrs. Hooser serves as the student government advisor, school improvement team chairperson, and a teaching and learning team cohort trainer for the district. Currently, Mrs. Hooser is working on her master's degree in school administration at Appalachian State University. As busy as she is, you will always find her with a smile on her face and a willingness to help. It is her positive, can-do personality and tireless dedication to Cabarrus Tech and its students that make Mrs. Hooser an outstanding choice for the Impact Through Education Award. Congratulations, Mrs. Hooser. Our final honoree this evening from Cabarrus Tech is Mrs. Brooke Anderson. Would Mrs. Anderson and her family please come forward? Brooke Anderson began working in Cabarrus County Schools in 2012 as an English teacher at the Cabarrus Kannapolis Early College. In 2016, she earned her master's degree in school counseling at Appalachian State University and helped open Cabarrus Tech as its school counselor. Ms. Anderson has been instrumental in developing a well-rounded school counseling program that meets the social, emotional, and academic needs of students. Last year, she began hosting events for forming ongoing COBRA understanding and support, or focus nights. During these events, parents and students learn information and skills that support personal growth. In addition to working with students individually, you can also find Ms. Anderson in the classrooms delivering programs and conducting small group sessions. Currently, she is in the process of applying for the Cabarrus Tech Student Services Program to be recognized as a model program by the American Counselors Association. It is this drive to provide outstanding support and services to the students, parents, and staff that make Ms. Anderson a superb choice for the Impact Through Education Award. Congratulations. And finally, after a couple months' delay, we will get to recognize our Impact Award winners from Cox Mill High School. So I'd like to invite any members of the Cox Mill High School administrative team to come forward at this time. Do you want me to read it? Mr. Smith just told me that one of his honorees is not here this evening. That'd be Erin Brinkley. Erin, are you here? Nope. Okay. So I will just read Erin's bio just so we can recognize her, and Mr. Smith will get her plaque to her. Erin Brinkley is a bright and motivated student. She is a great example for others with her future-focused, goal-oriented choices. School administrators submitted the following story about Erin from one of her teachers, and it gives us all a glimpse into the kind of student that she is. I was fortunate to meet Erin Brinkley through her counselor, who brought her to my office one day around registration time while preparing for her upcoming senior year. She had exhausted all of the CTE courses in her cluster requirement for graduation, but wanted more. Erin was very interested in drafting and architecture, having taken the courses throughout her years at Cox Mill. I noticed something different about Erin the minute she walked through my door. She was bubbly and energetic, and her passion for architecture showed tremendously immediately into our conversation. She was talking fast and showing me her portfolio, and her drafting teacher spoke very highly of her. She had already reached out to some local architects in the Concord area and was hoping to get connected with one to complete an internship. After many meetings, we were able to nail down an awesome opportunity for the fall semester with Ken Griffin, a commercial architect in Concord. Fast forward to this August when school began, I met with Erin to finalize her plans, and she's off to a great start with Mr. Griffin. He has nothing but great things to say about Erin. So Erin, we congratulate you for being nominated for an Impact Through Education Award for Cox Mill High School. Our second honoree from Cox Mill High School this evening is Wisla Yakala. Would Wisla and his family please come forward? Wisla is an incredibly bright young man who encompasses all the characteristics of a true leader and a team player. He is a self-motivated individual who seeks new learning opportunities for not only himself, but for those around him as well. Nearing the top of his class, Wisla has continued taking honors, AP, and college-level dual enrollment courses in order to remain challenged and be prepared for his post-secondary collegiate career. He has displayed his leadership traits and abilities through his involvement with the Academy of Information Technology and the Future Business Leaders of America organization. Wisla has given his time freely to Cox Mill High School and to the Academy. He has been an integral part of planning and implementing the goals of the Academy and has been in a leadership position for the past 2 years, working to listen to his classmates and advisory board members to improve the program. He has worked with the student advisory board members to create ways to help students in the program learn the curriculum, develop interpersonal skills, and get more involved in Cox Mill High School. In addition to his success academically and his involvement in organizations throughout the school, he was also selected by the district office for an internship opportunity here in the Career and Technical Education Department. Through this opportunity, Wisla will be meeting with district personnel, teachers, and advisors of career and technical student organizations and others to create a policy handbook for these organizations. He will be working under the guidance of Mr. Rusty Parker, CCS Director of Career and Technical Education, who is serving as his internship supervisor. While staying busy in and out of the classroom, he still finds time to enjoy the social aspects of high school, helping others along the way. He is well liked by his peers and teachers and always puts others before himself. Congratulations, Wisla, and you are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Cox Mill High School. Our next honoree from Cox Mill High School is Mrs. Jessica Enloe. Would Ms. Enloe and her family please come forward? Mrs. Enloe has been a member of the Cox Mill High School family since 2011 as a teacher in the science department. She provides rigor in her classes, shows the relevancy of the learning to students, and develops a great classroom climate to foster student learning. Mrs. Enloe designs lessons that have her students actively engaged in their learning. She also has shown great leadership in the school. Mrs. Enloe has served as our science co-department chair, lead mentor, and is participating in Cabarrus County Schools Teacher Leadership Program. She has coordinated the Cox Mill Elementary Cox Mill High School Science Night celebration, where kindergarten through 8th grade students and parents explore STEM-related activities. Mrs. Enloe has organized a lunch with scientists, where Cox Mill High School students have an opportunity to interact with STEM personnel on a one-on-one basis. Because of her excellent work, Mrs. Enloe was selected as the Teacher of the Year for Cox Mill High School and a District Teacher of the Year finalist in 2015. One of Mrs. Enloe's former students said, "She embodies the spirit of a teacher who genuinely loves what they do and who cares about their students on a deeply personal level." One of her colleagues stated, "Jessie is an exceptional, dedicated, innovative teacher who gives everything she has to teaching and loves helping students experience success. She unselfishly gives her time to help out whenever there is a need, eagerly offering assistance and guidance, even to the experienced colleagues. She is an inspiration to both her students and her colleagues." Mrs. Enloe is an outstanding teacher and leader and truly makes an impact for students, staff, and the community. Congratulations, Mrs. Enloe, on your selection. And our final honoree this evening from Cox Mill High School is Mrs. Melissa Prenti. Would Mrs. Prenti and her family please come forward? Melissa Prenti is the treasurer at Cox Mill High School. She was one of the first staff members to officially work full-time for the school back in the spring of 2009, when Cox Mill High School was located in a mobile unit on the Cox Mill Elementary School campus. Principal Smith recalls one of the strengths Mrs. Prenti shared in her interview was that she would be able to maintain excellent financial records and procedures while also developing a great rapport with staff and students. She has done both. Mrs. Prenti's door is always open to anyone who has a question or needs assistance. Staff and students are always comfortable going to Mrs. Prenti with questions and in need of help. One of Mrs. Prenti's colleagues stated, "Melissa always gives 100% to Cox Mill High School staff and students. Her positive attitude and open door create a welcoming environment to all. Her willingness to help in whatever capacity is needed makes her an invaluable colleague and friend of many at Cox Mill High." Mrs. Prenti starts every school year with the goal of helping all staff and students. Mrs. Prenti not only works with areas relating to the classroom needs, she also works with the school's many extracurricular activities. Assistant Principal Lowry stated, "Mrs. Prenti is always positive and professional. The entire staff has a deep respect for her professionally and personally. She's always available to help with an issue or answer a question, and her expertise is evident. Students and parents also recognize her for always being pleasant to work with. Mrs. Prenti is truly an asset for us as an administrative team, as well as for our community as a whole." Congratulations on receiving the Impact of Education Award.
It's my pleasure to present to you, board members, our television viewing audience, and our audience here in the room tonight, to announce that our very own superintendent, Chris Louder, has been selected as the Superintendent of the Year by the North Carolina Association for the Advancement of Health Education. Dr. Louder was selected for his noteworthy leadership in improving the health of students and staff through the coordination of school health in Cabarrus County Schools. Dr. Louder received this award earlier this month on November the 2nd at the annual North Carolina Alliance for Athletics, Health, Physical Education, Recreation, Dance, and Sports Management Convention in Winston-Salem. Congratulations, Dr. Louder, for this wonderful honor. If you'll come forward, please. Before we go on to approval of the minutes, board members, I'd like to recognize Officer Lambert of Cox Mill Elementary. He is our SRO tonight, and Officer Lambert, thank you for coming out and supporting us in all that you do at Cox Mill Elementary. Board members, we have Section 5, which is the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve all of the minutes? We have three different sets of minutes from October the 2nd, October the 9th, and October the 17th.
So moved.
All right. Ms. Furtenbaugh makes the motion. Mr. Harrison seconds that. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Those minutes are approved 6-0. We're now at our report section. 6.1 is the Cabarrus County Government Brand Relaunch. Kristen Bunton is coming forward to talk to us about the new logo for Cabarrus County.
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight on your packed agenda. It's always difficult to go after recognitions, but I'm very pleased to present tonight Cabarrus County's new brand. I shy away from calling it a rebrand because we never really had a research-based brand in the county. There was a graphic that had a race car on it, said home of American Motorsports, but nobody really knew exactly where that came from, and there was no research to support it. First off, what is a brand and what makes a brand strong? I think we all have favorite brands. What makes a brand strong is defined by the number of people who have some kind of affinity with that brand. And some of the misconceptions about branding, there's a few. That brands are simply a logo, and I think we all can recognize some of these logos that are in front of us. We either all like Chevy or Ford, it seems. And you can identify with one of those. Another misconception is that brands are simply a slogan. And I'm going to throw this out to those in the audience and to board members. Anybody recognize the ultimate driving machine? BMW. Audience is quicker. Because you're worth it? L'Oreal. Business is our middle name. IBM. Think different. Apple. And what happens here stays here. I think we all know that one. And one of the reasons why it's included in this presentation is unfortunately due to some recent events that have happened, and that is their brand. Take it or leave it, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm sure there were lots of conversations after that event that is this what we, is this us? Do we want to adapt it or change it? Misconception is that brands are only an icon. I think we all recognize one of those at least, but they're just images that can help tell your story, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And one of the biggest ones for us is that brands are only for products or services. They're too emotional for communities or government, and that branding is only externally focused and it's a marketing thing. It's to sell something. But brands are just as important for enterprises as they are for products or services. It's a fundamental for internal communications as it is for external communications. With enterprises, including county governments or schools, brands are affected in defining who you are and your mission, your vision, values with internal stakeholders. And once they understand the brand and their role in supporting the brand, they have the ability to become your brand ambassadors. And for this reason, we launched our brand to our employees first. October 11th and 12th, we had an employee appreciation event, and this was the first time that they were actually seeing that brand. And we wanted, we weren't looking for a brand that would just raise awareness about Cabarrus County. We wanted something that would remind us who we are as a community and inspire us to find success. And with that, Avant Marketing did a lot of research. 30 in-depth interviews with county leaders. I think some of you were involved in that. 5 focus groups with residents, businesses, county staff, and a high school survey. And that gave us our platform development. And these are some of the things that we heard during those one-on-one session and group sessions. We are really Southern with a bunch of diversity. We take pride in our progress, a fresh outlook. It's America at its best. Cities and counties get along together. I think some of you that have been here for a while know that that hasn't always been the case. So that's something that you all should be proud of and that we are very proud of. There is a willingness of the business community to work together. We have a lot of churches. Growing up with that structure taught me good things happen with faith. It's an old-time place transitioning to the future. It's a good place to live, culture, education, and low-cost living. We care about each other and our natural resources. The best thing is the friendly, warm, welcoming community. I think you can all see a trend. A lot of growth and change, but people collaborate and understand each other. People come together for what is right, working towards the good of our entire community. Our communities are great at identifying problems and solving issues. People are tight-knit, and we have good collaboration among governments. Our elected leaders make themselves accessible. They value relationships. And finally, we encompass history and rebirth. We didn't want to go backwards, or we don't want to go backwards, but treasure our history in ways that bring us forward. So I think you can all see some trends that are going along with these quotes. So that led us to our brand mission, and I hate reading off a screen, but I feel like it's so important to hear it that I do. We embrace growth and continued improvement of quality of life for all citizens. Collaboration is at the heart of our mission, people, communities, and government working together and focused on our successful future. And our brand vision. We have a bright and prosperous future through well-managed growth that delivers an exceptional business and living environment for those who seek it. And from there, we defined 4 values which our community is centered: family, faith, collaboration, and tradition. I think brand values kind of work, good brand values help sustain a strong brand. And through time, our opinions change. Things might change about our county, about Concord, but what remains the same is our values. And that's going to direct how we see things. So the first brand value is family. From generation to generation, our family values nurture our community. We invest in our youth and their success. We take pride in our community accomplishments and welcome those who seek a supportive community. The next value is faith. We are a community of diverse beliefs, united in mutual support of others. Faith inspires compassion among our people, and it guides our strong moral fiber. Collaboration is next. We celebrate our accomplishments based on our mutual goals. We work together, play together, and take pride in our thriving community. And finally, tradition. While building a progressive future, we make time to appreciate what makes our lives special. We come together to share experiences and pass on ideals that are uniquely shaped by each generation. So in order for this brand to be successful and to be strong, all the values are important and they cannot be sacrificed for one another. They work in tandem together. So the balance of family, faith, collaboration, and tradition is at the heart of Cabarrus County culture. It's differentiation in the region and its critical competitive advantage. So our brand positioning statement: Cabarrus County respects tradition while focusing on progress. We enjoy strong collaboration among our businesses, government, and communities in meeting our challenges. We are united by our shared values of family, faith, collaboration, and tradition. These instill our exceptional work ethic and great sense of community. We embrace freedom and opportunity, which leads to our diverse talents and mindsets. By recognizing our talents, which are driven by our values and working together for our future, this is the place where America thrives. And that brings us to our brand essence, or your tagline, America Thrives Here. And at this point, I think we would be remiss to think that Cabarrus County is a utopia, that we don't have problems, that bad things don't happen in Cabarrus County. And I think we all know that, that we've got some hills to climb. We are the highest rate for opioid overdoses in North Carolina right now. But I think that the important thing about our brand is that this is how we tell our story, where our services are, how you can get them, and how we collaborate with each other, with the school districts, and with the municipalities, the fire chiefs, EMS, to try to wrap our arms around this and solve an issue. And finally, the graphic or the logo. This logo pulls the somewhat triangular shape of the county. We're not cutting off that part of the county. We're not redrawing lines. But it brings the shape of the county into focus and allows the C to bust through superhero style. The more traditional serif font used is a nice counterpoint to the zip of the graphic ID, and the tagline brings movement back into the text. The darker blue is a gentle recognition of the patriotism we convey in our tagline, and the lighter blue provides some contrast while remaining in keeping with the color family. So at this time, I'll address any questions that you may have.
Board members, do you have any questions for Ms. Monton? Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
We're
much.
excited that you presented this to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Six point two is the Cabarrus County Schools Global Report, the dual language immersion programs, and Dr. Hill is coming forward to talk to us.
Good evening, Dr. Louder, Mr. Shoemaker, members of the board. We're just really excited to be here tonight, and we hope you all had an opportunity to go upstairs and visit our first annual Global Fair. While visiting the fair, you would have seen all of our international faculty and the culture that they share with the work that they do here in Cabarrus County Schools. At this time, I would like all of our teachers and staff who are here for our global programs to please stand. Thank you. So tonight, we would like to highlight the programs in Cabarrus County Schools, and our focus is going to be specifically on the immersion program. So why a global perspective? In September of 2011, the North Carolina State Board of Education formed a task force on global education to assess the state's efforts to produce globally competitive graduates who are ready to live, work, and contribute in an interconnected world. Based on the feedback it received, the task force noted 6 major findings and made 5 commitments to take supporting action to ensure every public school student graduated fully prepared for the world. And this effort focuses on assuring that students understand and appreciate other countries, languages, and cultures. So in Cabarrus County Schools, we have our Global Ready Schools. And our 2 Global Ready Schools are Harrisburg Elementary School and Harris Road Middle School. We also have about 100 teachers in Cabarrus County School who are currently in the process of working on receiving their Global Educator Digital Badge. Tonight, we are going to highlight our immersion programs. So our Spanish immersion programs are Furr Elementary School, Rocky River Elementary School, Winecoff Elementary School, and Irvin Elementary School. Next year, we will bring on 2 new Spanish immersion schools. They will be Weddington Hills Elementary School and Wolf Meadow Elementary School. And we'll also be highlighting our Mandarin Immersion program. Right now, we only have 1 Mandarin Immersion program. That's Cox Mill Elementary School. And next year, we will be bringing on Harrisburg Elementary School. So why immersion? Just a graphic of the brain, and research tells us that students or people who are bilingual have an easier time with these key brain functions, such as developing strong thinking skills, cultivating cultural awareness, using logic, focusing on remembering and making decisions, and understanding math concepts, and increasing reading comprehension. And tonight you'll have the opportunity to hear all about our immersion programs and also hear from our students. So at this time, I would like to turn this portion of the presentation over to our principals and assistant principals, and we are going to begin with Carl A. Furr. And the next school will be Cox Mill Elementary, so if you all just want to come up here. Yeah, just push the arrow.
Good evening. On behalf of all the other principals at Dual Immersion Program Schools, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to implement these programs. We've seen a number of benefits for our students, our families, and our overall school community. So thank you again. Or should I say, gracias. As you can see, this is our 5th year of Spanish immersion at Furr Elementary School. We're going to scroll down and just give you some background. We began the program in 2013-14, and at that time, the program was only open to students who live within the Furr attendance zone. We had a wonderful response. We had 70 students whose parents signed them up for the program, and we only had space for 48. So we had to implement a lottery, and we selected our 48 students, and you'll get a chance to hear some of those students in just a few minutes and see what all they've learned over the course of 5 years of instruction in 2 languages. We placed those 48 students into 2 kindergarten classrooms, which left us 4 traditional kindergarten classes in that initial year. That ratio has actually flipped since then. Beginning in 2014-15, we expanded to 2 two-teacher dual immersion teams in kindergarten and in each subsequent grade level as we moved up. Today we have a total of 18 dual immersion classrooms through grades K through 4. And the students participating in the dual immersion, you can see the number of students kindergarten at 92, and those are 4 full classrooms of 23 students each. And there's a little bit of attrition as we move up in grade level to where we have 37 of that original 48 still remaining with us in 4th grade for a total of 352 students, and 82 of those are program choice students that join us from other school communities. And just to show you how big of an impact the dual immersion team has at Furr Elementary, those are all the teachers involved. So quite a large staff.
Do they have to start, they still have to start in kindergarten, is that correct?
We do start all our students in kindergarten or at the very beginning of 1st grade. The only exception to that is if they're a native Spanish speaker, then they can begin the program pretty much at any grade level.
So I guess if Darren said gracias, then I need to say xie for bringing the Mandarin program to Cabarrus County Schools. And so our path was very similar to Darren's, but we took it slightly different. So from 2012 to 2015, we participated in the guest teacher program. And so we had one teacher through the Hanban Institute that came, and she taught she taught Chinese to all of our students at that time as a part of our specials area, or so art, PE, and then they went to Mandarin. And as we did that, we started to look into what it would look like to be an immersion school, as we knew that we already had some schools in the county that were doing Spanish. And so at that time, we went to visit and we started holding some parent meetings. And so when we started with the first year at 2015-2016, we had some kindergarten parents the year that we were looking that were very interested in the program. And they said, well, if you start the program, is it possible to not just start with kindergarten, but start with 1st grade as well? And so we said yes. We talked to Participate at the time, and they agreed to rewrite the curriculum for us, so as we started in 1st grade. So one of the students you'll hear later is actually one of our first grade students who started in the 1st year with us. And so since then, we started with our 2 1st grade classes and 2 kindergarten classes, and we have then continued every year. And so this is our 1st year with 3rd grade, and we have 2 classes at every grade level, kindergarten through 3rd. And we have a connection with our teacher over at Coxmell High School as well. The teacher teaches at the high school level also comes in the afternoon and teaches as a part of our 3rd grade class. And so we've been able to do a lot of partnerships with them and hold multi-school programs at Autumn Festival and different times throughout the year where we have the high school students come over and join with us. And so we're looking forward to next year being able to add 2 more classes of kindergarten, adding us then to be kindergarten through 4th grade. So, she.
Okay, so at Rocky River we have Spanish immersion, and we're on year 3 of our Spanish immersion program. We began in 15-16 school year, and we had 2 kindergarten classrooms. Well, in that 15-16 school year, the program went so well that in the 16-17 school year, we went 4 kindergarten classrooms and 4 1st grade classrooms. So we expanded from 2 to 8 pretty quickly. So currently, because of attrition, naturally with immersion, sometimes there's attrition and with that. So we have 10 language immersion classrooms. We have kindergarten through 2nd grade. We have 2 kindergarten, 4 1st grade, and 4 2nd grade classrooms. Students from 7 area elementary schools are eligible to come to Rocky River. We have teachers from Colombia, we have teachers from Chile, and teachers from Mexico that join us at Rocky River. Currently, we have 169 students enrolled in language immersion. Next school year, we plan to expand our immersion program to 3rd grade with approximately 4 additional Spanish immersion classrooms. And there's just some kids involved in the classroom doing the great work that they do at Rocky River in immersion. Thank you.
Just another quick question. Does that replace the ESL classes at the?
No.
It doesn't.
This year is not, it's addition to.
All right, and so my name is Richard Wells. I'm the Assistant Principal of Instruction at Wyckoff, and I'm filling in for Trish Cook. She's our principal. And so I have the privilege of sharing with you our brief journey into Spanish immersion at Wyckoff. This is year 1. How did you say it? Gracias? All right, but we didn't wait until we were beginning to implement the program to start getting prepared. And so last year we spent lots of time with our staff members, just talking with our kindergarten staff members specifically, talking about what Spanish dual immersion would look like at Wyckoff. And Fur Elementary and Rocky River Elementary were so gracious to invite us out. And so we took a few trips actually over the course of the spring semester to kind of explore what it looked like at other schools and how we could adapt that for Wyckoff Elementary. And so this year we have opened with 2 dual language classrooms, so it's 1/3 of our kindergarten enrollment. And so we've got 50 students who are currently enrolled in the program, and that includes 22% of our children who come from out of district. And we still have 3 students on a wait list. And one thing we learned from Fur and Rocky River is that at the end of the year, our goal is to finish with the full program so we can continue the program. And our plan is to scale it up K-5 at Wyckoff as well. So I don't have a whole lot of information to share for you yet, but I do have some demographic information just to give you an idea of our enrollment. And so you can see a majority of the students are females who are enrolled in the program. One thing we are proud of is our diversity in the program, with the largest group being our Hispanic population. We have 42% Hispanic students in the dual language immersion program. And here is a picture of Miss Raffault. She is the Raffault Raccoons. You can see big smiles there. And this is Miss Boccolini's class. They are the Owls. And I don't know, I can't remember what the word is for owl, but I know it starts with B in Spanish. So Boccolini and Raffault, red and blue. All right, and I'll also say that one of those children is mine, and he has shared with me that he prefers to speak and read in Spanish. So I'm excited for that opportunity for him. And this is a picture of Miss Torres, our full-time teacher assistant who also works with the Spanish immersion program.
I could say ditto. This is our first year as well at Irvin. We did start the year with about 47 students in our program. We did add students right before school started. We had several of our Hispanic families that enrolled late that we were able to add to the program that were very interested, which was very good and very successful for our students as well. I will say that our program is just for students within Irvin's boundaries. So the program is only open to students that live in our boundary. But we also have the IB program that is open for anyone with the program choice piece. So if students are selected in the IB program and are interested in dual language, there's that opportunity for both programs within our school. Like I said, we do have, it says 45, we actually have 47, and we enrolled one this week, so we added another one to the program because we do have attrition. We do have students that move in and out quite a bit, but we're able to fill spots as they come available as well. We have had lots of parent support with the program in such a short period of time. Lots of parents that were very pleased with what they're seeing with their students and the work that their students are doing. And I as well added a couple pictures so you can see Miss Osorio in her class, who's back here. She's sitting back there, but she had great work going on in the classroom with the kids, very engaged. And I have several quotes from parents. I'm just going to read one because you also have them in front of you. But our parents are very excited, and the first one really kind of summarizes many quotes that we've received and many comments that we've received from parents. It says, "We are amazed at what our daughter is able to do every day with the little time she has spent in the immersion program. It's really only been 2 full months, and she has grown leaps and bounds. Not only do I see her putting together sentences, but also pushing through even when she's struggling to remember certain words. We see the wheels in her head turning. We are beyond happy at the choice we made in choosing the program for her." And I will say that is repeated over and over again by our parents. And again, there's a couple more quotes that you'll have there for you. So I'm going to pass it back to Darren.
So I'd like to take a moment to share some data with you that we've seen from our immersion students. And like Richie mentioned to you, one of the things he's very proud of at his school is the diversity that he has within his dual immersion program, and we see the same kind of diversity at FUR as well, and you'll see those numbers on your screen. The first several slides are data resulting from our TRC assessment, which is a reading comprehension assessment that we give to all students, kindergarten through 3rd grade. These assessments are all done in English. So again, the students are receiving instruction in both languages, one day in Spanish, the next day in English, but all the assessments and the results are from English tests. So if you'll take a look, one of the things that we were hoping for within our program is that we would close the achievement gaps. As we look at each of these different slides, try to take a look at how the different ethnic groups have performed on each of these assessments and whether or not we've closed that gap between how white students are performing and students of other ethnic groups. So you can see in kindergarten, this was again last year's kindergarten group, 70% of those students were reading at grade level or above at the end of the year. In our immersion programs, the immersion bars are the green bars. And then in our traditional classrooms, or our regular kindergarten classrooms, 68% of the students were performing at or above grade level. And we were very pleased with that, and we've seen similar results each year in kindergarten. The reason we're so pleased with that is it's counterintuitive. You would expect the students to perform a little bit lower in that first year when they're only getting 90 days of instruction in English and the other 90 in Spanish. But we're actually seeing the result that exposure to both languages is causing an increase in their performance on English assessments. So we're very pleased with that. And also notice how the different ethnic groups performed, and you can see the number of students within each ethnic group. We roll up into 1st grade, and by the way, I do want to point out to you before we roll on, the bars for the Hispanic population, there are 37 students in our kindergarten immersion program last year. And of those 37, 57% of them were at or above grade level at the end of the kindergarten year. There were only 4 Hispanic students that were in the traditional classes, and none of those students were at grade level. So small sample size certainly for that group. We're very pleased with that performance for our Hispanic population. It's much higher than we typically would see from just regular classroom instruction. In 1st grade last year, can you see overall, 62% of our students in Spanish immersion were at grade level or above, and 57% from the traditional classes. And then you see how the different ethnic groups performed. This is the one aberration for what we would hope for out of our immersion program. In 1st grade, our Hispanic population did not perform as well as the students in the regular classroom. There were a number of students who were just one book level away from being at grade level. So we're hoping they'll close that gap this year. 2nd grade TRC proficiency. Again, 77% of the students in the immersion program proficient compared to 71% of the students in the regular classrooms. 100% of white students reading at proficiency, 80% black, and then 65% Hispanic. And then when we get into 3rd grade TRC, 85% of the students in Spanish immersion reading at or above grade level compared to 76% in the regular classrooms, 100% of white and black students reading at or above grade level, and you can see the slight increase there for Hispanic students within the immersion program. TRC data is great to look at. We always want to fall back on EOGs. That's where we are most focused on our improvement. Before we take a look at EOGs, this is just overall K through 3 TRC data. So you can see when you combine all 4 grade levels, the green bars exceed the red bars with every single ethnic group, with the exception of multiracial students. And there's a 3% difference there. So here is our EOG data from last year's 3rd grade group. Reading EOGs, 63% of our Spanish immersion students were at or above grade level, compared to 58% in the traditional classrooms. And notice the achievement gap that doesn't exist between white and black students actually outperformed white students. And there's a much smaller gap between Hispanic students and white from the Spanish Immersion program. And then this is our math data from last year as well. Again, you notice very little, if any, gap between white and black students within the immersion program, especially compared to the traditional classrooms. Hispanic students did not perform quite as well with the math assessment as they did with the reading assessment last year. We're hoping we'll see an improvement there this year. Okay. Thank you for that opportunity to share some data.
Yeah, one last question. One last question for you. It said, well, I guess a couple years ago, it said by the 5th grade, students will be fluent in Spanish by the time they reach 5th grade. Is there an assessment? How do you gauge that? And
Yeah,
are you on path to do that?
Yes, the TRC assessments that I shared with you here were all English assessments, but we do also give a similar reading comprehension assessment to our students in Spanish to see where they are. And in fact, I believe Richie mentioned that his son is enjoying learning in Spanish and prefers to speak and read in Spanish now. We actually see in kindergarten that our kids typically are performing a little bit better in Spanish than they are in English on reading assessments there. And we have similar numbers from our Spanish assessments. I didn't put those together, but I certainly can do that. Okay. Any other questions about the data?
Mr. Harrison?
Does the instruction on day 2 reiterate the instruction on day 1 so that it reinforces, or is the instruction on day 2 a step practically into day 3? I mean, how do you
Exactly.
layer the instruction from day 1 to 2 to 3 to 4?
Yeah, each day builds upon the previous day. So if I got instruction today in English, tomorrow when I go next door and get my instruction in Spanish, it's not a repeat of the previous day's lesson. She's not simply translating it into Spanish. She's taking that concept and moving on to the next step. So if in a 2-week unit, we're going to cover these 3 standards, we're working together to cover those 3 standards in the same 10 days that another traditional classroom teacher would do it all by herself. These 2 teachers just do it between the 2 of them.
Thank
It
you.
takes a lot of extra planning time.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about the data before we bring some students up?
Bring them up.
Okay. Boys and girls, come on up. Guys, come on up and remember who's ever speaking. Make sure you're right in front of the microphone, okay? Shelby, you want to go there first? Make sure you speak loud and clear, okay?
Hola, mi nombre es Shelby. Mi experiencia en el programa de Splash ha sido buena porque hablo español y lo entiendo, y porque tienes buenos amigos. A mí me gusta Splash porque aprender sobre mi maestra y su país. Y a veces en final de año bailamos una canción sobre su país.
Hi, my name is Alejandro. Hi, my name is Alejandro, and I am going to translate what Shelby said. She said that her experience in the Splash program has been good because she speaks and understands Spanish. Also because she has good friends. She likes Splash because we learn about the teacher and her country. And sometimes we dance a song from the teacher's country at the end of the school year.
Hola, mi nombre es Jacobo y como Shelby hiciste, yo voy a hablar sobre mi experiencia en Splash. Mi experiencia en Splash ha sido diferente e interesante. Diferente de una clase normal porque estamos aprendiendo cómo hablar español y estamos aprendiendo de la cultura del país de la maestra. Y es interesante porque estamos aprendiendo cómo hablar usar español en matemáticas, lectura y ciencias.
Hi, my name is Soleil and I'm going to translate what Jacob said. Jacob said, as Shelby did, that he will be talking about his experience in the Splash program. His experience in the Splash program is different and interesting. It is different from a regular class because we are learning how to speak Spanish and about the teacher's culture. It is also interesting because we are learning how to use Spanish in math, reading, and science.
Hola, mi nombre es Simora. A mí me gusta todo de Splash porque puedo comunicarme en un idioma diferente. Somos las únicas personas que hablan español cada año en nivel. Cuando hablo español me siento única. Me gusta aprender matemáticas, lectura, ciencias naturales y sociales en español.
Okay, Xiomara said that she likes everything about Splash because she can communicate in another language. And we are the only class that speaks Spanish in our level every year.
He also said that when he speaks Spanish, he feels unique. He likes to learn about math, reading, science, and social studies.
Gracias por su atención.
You're supposed to say. 早上好，我的名字是瑞丽，我在3年级。Good evening, my name is Riley Caruso, and I am a 3rd grade student at Cox Mill Elementary. Tonight, I would like to share with you a story from one of our mini books. 天气预报，大家早上好，欢迎教天气预报。今天它的天气晴朗，有微风，最高的85度，最低65度。大家可以短袖短长出游玩。明天请转阴雨会将有的分最高的是78度，最低是60度。大家有对衣服小心长脸，出门有挡伞，不要身上。谢谢收听天气预报，我们明天见。小朋友，今天天气怎么样？请你说一说。I am in my 3rd year in the Mandarin Immersion program. Some of my favorite things about the program are I get to learn about other cultures, and the teachers are super nice to the class. I would like to end by saying 谢谢, thank you, for offering students the opportunity to learn Mandarin at the schools in Cabarrus County.
Allison, I have one question. Was she reading Chinese symbols?
She was, yes. Will you show them the mini book? Here, Ma.
While she's doing that, I'd just like to say thank you to the students and the families for their participation in the program. Obviously, the principals and the school and staff members, our district support staff who've just done a fantastic job with this. Participate is our partner that we work with. They provide us with professional development. They help us hire our teachers, and they work alongside with us. We'd like to thank Dr. Lauder and, of course, the board for your support. Are there any additional questions?
Board members, I open it up to you. Mr. Walter?
Well, if again, parents want to get their kids involved, how can they do that?
They can apply through our program choice. If you just go to the Cabarrus County Schools website, the applications, we'll be taking applications through mid-December.
Any other questions or comments? All right. It was very well, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Hill. As you can see, there's some very good things happening in Cabarrus County Schools. And rather than bore you with my voice, I'll pass it on to Dr. Latter and let him tell you about more things that are happening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you to all of the faculty people that came out tonight and the principals, in particular the principals and their leadership in those programs, and also say a thank you to the board for their support of these programs and what they bring to our school. So thank you very much. I want to do a few reminders. There will be a second public hearing regarding the Royal Oaks Elementary School boundary on Monday, December 4th at 6 p.m. here at the Education Center. Information about how to register as a speaker can be found at the district website at www.cabarrus.k12.nc.us in the New and Noteworthy section. Program choice applications, as Dr. Hill just said, are available online and will be accepted until noon on December the 20th. Visit the district website to access the application and to learn about the program choice options. The deadline to submit entries for the 7th annual holiday e-card design contest is 5 o'clock on December 1st. Details about the contest and entry guidelines are available on the district website. I want to congratulate our Teacher of the Year and Teacher Liaison to the board, Paige Norris, on being named the Richard A. Schwartz Honored Educator Scholar. As the recipient, Ms. Norris receives a scholarship to attend the NC Center for the Advancement of Teaching and the program of her choice in that program. The scholarship covers the cost of the program, the travel, food, and lodging, as well as a substitute for the teacher in his or her absence. This award honors our board attorney, Richard Schwartz's father, Dr. Norman Schwartz. And last, we have a very short week this way, as we will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday on Wednesday through Friday. We want to say that we hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dr. Lauder. We've now come to the portion of our program where we have guest speakers. And in accordance with the board policy 2310, as revised by the board on May 11th, 2015, a part of each business meeting will be set aside for citizens to address the board. Sign-up cards will be available for any individual or group to indicate their desire to address the board. Speakers must hand a completed card to the board clerk no later than 6 p.m., the normal start time of the regularly scheduled monthly business meeting. The board chair will decide the time devoted to public comments. Speakers must complete a contact information card including their name, group name if applicable, address, and phone number, and list the general education-related topic of their presentation for the board minutes. Tonight we have 6 speakers, and our first speaker will be Ms. Keisha Sandage.
Good evening. Please excuse my attire. This is the result of taking care of a 10-year-old all day. All right, so today marks my 4th time publicly speaking to this board. I've brought about some pretty serious concerns relating to Concord High School, later referenced as CHS, and how it's being operated. I've emailed this board on several occasions about varied issues relating to CHS, most recently on 10/23, on 3 occasions that day, relating to, 1, a faculty meeting where teachers were indirectly encouraged to write a letter of support for administration following a newspaper article about the school. I find it interesting that CHS staff can be encouraged to report positively about what's occurring within their school, but those who oppose are forced to remain silent about actions they feel negatively affect working conditions, school morale, student progress, school tradition, and overall well-being of a community school. Maybe instead of encouraging teachers to speak highly of an administration, parents should have been notified of a threat to students made the day prior. To inform of potentially inappropriate media responses was the second email on that day to CHS. Permanent sub pretty much told the newspaper that there were things going on that were not. I also sent this to the board. This occurred on twice that day. Lastly, on 10/19, I emailed this board to request a meeting with the continued concerns that I have. Let's see, can you help me understand why my questions and concerns to this board have seemingly been ignored? What are we waiting for? More teachers and faculty to leave or more students to be negatively impacted? I hear talk that things have changed and these concerns have already been addressed with the administration at CHS. However, I assure you this is not the case as those concerns continue today. I have to be honest, I've noticed several mistakes over the past few months within this county that have caused me to question the ability and leadership of the school board. I've questioned myself many times trying to understand why it wasn't enough for teachers working within the school to follow policy and address their personnel concerns to HR and something be put into place right then and there. So now, as a result of a failed system, it seems, it appears that I, as a parent, must take on the role of advocate for people who have already followed protocol. To me, this is sad. What does this board plan to do to address these varied concerns? How does this board suggest teachers in fear of retaliation address negative working conditions at CHS through policy when they are in fear for their jobs and continued ability to take care of their families? All I'm asking from this board is to recognize that there is a real problem at one of its schools that requires immediate addressing, starting with its administrators. If warranted, I have some suggestions and I would be willing to discuss those with you privately. Thank you.
Our second speaker tonight is Ms. Carrie Irving. She wants to speak about the Beverly Hills Elementary benefits of socioeconomic integration and school neighborhood.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. The current student population at Beverly Hills Elementary demonstrates the positive academic and social impacts of socioeconomic integration. At Beverly Hills, STEM combined with the advantages of a neighborhood school bring the children of high socioeconomic parents together with students from middle and lower socioeconomic and education classes. Parents who have students at Beverly Hills contribute their time, talents, and money to supporting the entire student body. They assist with tutoring, fundraising, and special activities. This type of balancing is the envy of Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. We know that where schools become composed primarily of challenged socioeconomic students, these students' academic outcomes are further harmed and confidence in their academic abilities is reduced. By recommending the closure of Beverly Hills School for what this board refers to as optimum efficiencies, you are willing to ignore and sacrifice the value of the best possible education you can give to all our students. Make no mistake, many of the STEM parents of Beverly Hills will fight to get their children into Weinkauf STEM or seek other options. The fine arts cannot rectify socioeconomic diversity at Royal Oaks. Both Concord Middle and High will suffer. This is at best short-sighted and not thinking how we can have more than one type of elementary school, and at worst not considering the lasting effects of your decisions on the student population's success as a whole. The cost of renovating Beverly Hills now may be much less than the money and energy to fix a systemic problem later. It will require a different vision on your part to keep our walkable, successful school nestled on a beautiful site that brings communities together and make it part of this school system that thrives in so many other ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irving. Our next speaker is Ms. Susan Pless on Beverly Hills Elementary renovation as opposed to replacement.
Thank you for this chance to speak with you today. I'm here to speak in support of keeping Beverly Hills Elementary School open. The decision to close the small walkable neighborhood schools like Beverly Hills and replace rather than renovate is detrimental to the community. Renovating these smaller schools can help conserve resources and revitalize older communities like Beverly Hills. Small neighborhood schools keep urban areas vibrant, improve student scores, and create sense of community. Renovating neighborhood schools and historic buildings increase job opportunities in these urban communities. The Cabarrus County School Board can influence community welfare and growth by renovating and reusing these existing schools and set a great example of conservation and sustainable development while stimulating educational excellence and maintaining property and tax value of urban homes. I hope that you will have the vision for a greener Cabarrus and renovate Beverly Hills Elementary for the sake of improved student performance, prevention of urban decay, and preservation of sense of community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pless. Our next speaker is Adam Troutman, and he would like to speak about permanent redistricting to Mount Pleasant.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of a very small group of people that I kind of think have been forgot about. We live in somewhat the northeastern part of the county, and we were part of the 20 families that the board originally decided to permanently redistrict to Mount Pleasant. Granted, we heard that there was some folks in the community that had a large outcry and said that they did not want this to happen. We are here on the other end of the spectrum that we would like to have our kids permanently be moved to Mount Pleasant. Our kids have been in Mount Pleasant for 2 years now. They have more than flourished with faculty, other students. They've done very well in extracurricular activities. Our proposal is that we live on Gregory Road, which is merely half a mile from where the Mount Pleasant boundary currently is. And what we have proposed is to have the Mount Pleasant boundary currently moved to Gregory Road. And here we have a signed petition by every member on Gregory Road to permanently move all of our students to Mount Pleasant. Logistically, we are probably closer to Mount Pleasant than really we are Kannapolis, Concord, or any other place. And being is that the school buses have been coming down there for the past 2 years, it just seems to make sense to us just to leave us there. I know we do have a small voice, and I know there's a lot of other folks here that have a lot of other things to say, but what we would like for y'all to know is that we are here, even as small as we are, and we do have a voice, and we would like for y'all to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Troutman. Our fifth speaker is Ms. Melissa Golder, and she's going to speak on the Royal Oaks redistricting.
Good evening. Anyone? There's this one too here. All right. Good evening.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I was out of town November 6th during the first public comments on the issue of Royal Oaks redistricting, so I watched the video. And I was blown away by the passion and eloquence with which people discussed Beverly Hills Elementary School. But one comment specifically struck me. You may remember Sandoval Mesa, who represented the Hispanic community and spoke so lovingly about his children's experiences at Beverly Hills. And at the conclusion of his remarks, he said, "I think my opinion is meaningless." Watching that, I wanted to see some of you jump up and say, "No, sir. No one's opinion is meaningless when they are speaking to those elected to represent them." I wanted to hear you reassure everyone in this county who feels that the closure of its neighborhood schools is a foregone and short-sighted conclusion. I wanted to hear you say we are listening with open ears, hearts, and minds to what our constituents want for their schools and their tax dollars. Now, that kind of grandstanding may not be your style, but that reassurance is necessary, for there is doubt in due process these days. But despite all the reasons to doubt, I'm keeping the faith that those I elect will ask difficult questions, be critical consumers of data, and will ultimately make the calls that genuinely serve the greater good over the agenda of a few. I hope that others who've been let down by the disappointing parts of this redistricting initiative will also keep the faith. Numbers have been cagey and questions persist, like why did nearly a third of the scenarios proposed to the redistricting committee do nothing to redistrict Royal Oaks but only closed Beverly Hills? Why does the district website list the viability of the current Beverly Hills building as unknown, despite the fact that 400 small children call it home daily? And so forth. However, in spite of the doubt, there is promise and opportunity in this difficult decision. There is promise in the fact that you are not beholden to whatever Ms. Reimer recommends this evening. You don't work for Cabarrus County Schools, you work for the people you represent and are therefore beholden only to them. You are tasked only with listening to them and leading accordingly. There is opportunity to be perceptive and proactive regarding our neighborhood schools, even if the recommendation given tonight is to close one, and indeed even if it is the current long-range plan. I trust you will listen to your constituents, calling, emailing, speaking at meetings, and signing petitions, and putting up signs in their yards and businesses and on parade floats. And I trust you will preserve what has been nurtured for more than half a century at Beverly Hills Elementary and the neighborhood it anchors. I trust you will see how it benefits the long-term success of this district to maintain and indeed to protect our neighborhood schools. And you especially can see the benefit in doing that to your bottom line, because it does exist. I trust you will make the decision that is right on December 11th and show Mr. Sandoval and the rest of us that our opinions do, in fact, have meaning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Golder. Our final speaker tonight is Mr. Brian Sims, and he would like to speak on the new trail survey in Board Policy 4720.
Thank you and good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll try to be a little bit shorter than I was last month, and I know what the beeping sound means, so let's get to it. I've read the revised trail survey, and I'm delighted to see that the controversial and intensely private questions have been removed. I would like to thank the Cabarrus Health Alliance for bringing a more sensible and appropriate option before the board, and I'd like to thank the board for their stated commitment to reviewing future surveys so as to minimize the chances of this happening again. However, given that the prior survey did make it through the system and that it was administered to some students, I believe that more oversight is required. I would like to propose that the board modify Board Policy 4720 governing the surveying of our children in order to eliminate the current ambiguity and to provide clear direction going forward. Specifically, I urge the board to delineate with specificity the terms active consent, written consent, and opt-in, which logically, could mean the same thing, and passive consent and opt-out, likewise logically meaning the same thing. Also, current board policy specifies 8 areas that it deems to be protected topics that require written consent if funded by the Department of Education, but a more loose requirement if the survey is non-DOE funded. This inconsistency needs to be changed to reflect that regardless the source of the funding, if the survey touches a protected topic, the active written opt-in consent is required, whatever we end up calling it. While I understand that federal guidelines are the origin for the current policy directives, there should be nothing preventing the school system from adding to those requirements to provide for greater protections for the children of Cabarrus County. I urge the school board and the administration to make the common sense changes to the current board policy. In a society that seems bent on destroying the family and devaluing the role of parents, it is incumbent upon us to fight against those forces and to protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. All right, that is the end of our speakers for tonight. That will move us to Section 8 of the approval of the consent agenda. Section 8.1 is the approval of the November 20th consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the items on that agenda? Mr. Harrison makes the motion. Second. Ms. Furtenbaugh seconds it. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving this consent agenda as written, say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. And that motion carries 6-0. That takes us to the 9.1, which is our action agenda item on the approval of the revised trail survey, and Ms. Shepard's going to come up from the Cabarrus Health Alliance and talk with us.
Good evening. I think last week when we met, you were able to review the new survey, but also look at the implications of loss of trail funding and the services then that would be removed. So I'm here tonight to answer any additional questions you may have.
Board members, I'll open this up for your indulgence. Mr. Powell?
Yes, thank you. Is the new version of the trail survey available for parents to see on the website?
It has been on the website since our last board meeting, or the work session, yes, sir.
I'm not able to find it right now. Is it on the county website or the Health Alliance website?
On the board agenda website.
It's on board docs, but if they go to school health, they can't find it. Correct?
I'm sorry, John.
I'm sorry, most of my questions probably don't go to you.
No, that's okay.
Just like before.
I do know that because we're going to honor all the opt-outs, but we also want to give parents an opportunity to continue to opt out if they so desire. We will put it on the website for parents to review for that week's period and allow those additional opt-outs to occur. So it will be on the health page of the Cabarrus County website, and we can also put it on the Cabarrus Health Alliance website as well.
In policy 4720, it states, I believe, that surveys were supposed to be approved the year they were given, I think. And I'm not sure if that was the case for this other one. Am I reading that correctly? Somebody that knows the policy better than I do could maybe help with that. Or someone who had chose to have the survey given in a year after it was approved. Perhaps that would be appropriate, but maybe I'm just reading that policy wrong. Well, where is it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So we're going to give a survey that we're not going to ask parents to approve in the same year? Is that what we're asked to do tonight? Approve the survey without asking parents to approve it? Can anyone answer that question? Dr. Louder?
Yeah.
I don't understand your question. Are you saying parents have to approve a survey before we give the survey?
That's what our policy states. 4720.
Didn't staff refer to the agreement was done at the end of the school year?
Yeah.
In this case?
So we did approve the survey at the end of the last school year for this school year. And I believe the last time I was here, I spoke about the reason for that was to give parents adequate notification prior to the start of the school year so they wouldn't be seeing this content at the beginning of the school year.
And one thing I can add regarding the opt-outs, we have received a total of 243 opt-outs, and part of that is related to that additional time that has been given this year for students to continue their opt-out options.
I think I'm reading from policy 4720, and as a practice, I generally don't ever do this, but it says, for surveys concerning the protected topics that are not funded in whole or in part by the DOE, the school system will notify parents at the beginning of each school year of the specific or approximate dates when such surveys will be administered. Is this applies?
So so you're saying that at the beginning of the school year, as you know, I made that notification prior to the beginning of the school year. So I'm kind of, I guess I'm trying to understand what the question is at that point. Are you saying that was not sufficient notification?
You know, I get quoted a lot of times that the board creates policy, I guess, and I get told that sometimes when I want to make common sense suggestions and so forth. And now, here is a protected topic that we did not notify parents at the beginning of the school year. I mean, I'm reading it verbatim, and it is crickets. We are okay with that for some reason. I'm just suggesting that we follow our own policy and we notify parents or give them the option before we administer the survey, which is exactly what the policy says. And, you know, at times the policy gets it right. I think they get it right in this one, but now I guess I'm just asking, are we voting to not follow the policy and give this survey without notifying parents? Is that what we're voting on? I just want to be sure, understand what I'm voting on.
I
That's
think,
not a question for us. That's not, that question was that's a
Since
question to the board.
I would like to ask our attorney, we have changed the policy. I mean, we've changed the survey. I would like a verification from our attorney on this.
I'd have to take a look at the policy, which I'm trying to do right now.
I'd like to know if we are, if we have to resend out something on this.
and actually, we do plan to do that. I mean, that is actually the plan to do anyway. Before we would start the survey, we would, again, connect Ed to each parent, and then they would then have a week to opt out. So that is our plan to do and move forward.
It would appear that the policy would require that the survey require the school system to notify parents at the beginning of the school year of the specific or approximate dates when surveys will be administered. You apparently did that at the beginning of the school year. If you're revising the survey, you might want to send out another notice.
So the intention is to do that, to send out another notice to parents. But to be clear, we set those dates prior to the beginning of the school year, not at the beginning of the school year. I do want to make that distinction.
How far prior to the beginning of the school year?
So the opt-out ran from late May to mid-June.
Well, apparently you do intend to send it out again
Yes, absolutely,
and give them notice, which would seem to meet the intent of the policy.
absolutely.
So it does.
And it sounds like going,
Me? Sorry.
oh, there we go. So it sounds like we just need to revise the process, that the surveys, the communication doesn't start until the beginning of the new school year. In cases, I know you were trying to give them more time over summer, and you're not going to be able to give 3 months or 2.5 months to respond. But maybe parents will be more engaged if it's at the beginning of the school year. So.
Right, to your point and to Mr. Powell's point, it would make sense to do a reminder, even if we did a very advanced notification to remind folks to say, once again, okay, now that the school year has started, this is a reminder, this will be going on during this date range.
We can absolutely do that.
I got to tell you, I was floored when I read the new survey and was shocked at how appropriate it was. It made me question why in the world we introduced the original survey as anything. It was nothing like the current version. I would have absolutely no problem at all with my child or anybody else who's taking that survey, but for the protected topics, and there's a whole list of them, I like the wisdom that's in this policy of giving parents the option. I also like some of the comments from Mr. Sims about identifying opt-in, opt-out with some of these protected topics in mind. I don't know what that might do to the policy, but I think we need to look at that to make sure that we don't have these kids falling through the gaps and exposed to things that their parents don't want them to. It's not their choice, it's their parents' choice. But I will say, I appreciate the changes that were made in that Section 3 in particular.
Ms. Carpenter?
And I agree. I think we need to take some of those things from and make sure we look at that in that policy. I agree with you 100%.
So can you make a motion to recommend it to the policy committee to review?
Well, we've got this on the floor right now.
Okay, I'll make the motion to refer policy 7420 to the policy committee to review. 4720, sorry.
Second. I'll second that.
And Mr. Harrison said he would second that. Any more discussion on that one? We've got Mr. Sims' comments, and then we can have the policy committee look at it in light of some of the other comments made tonight.
And just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Currently, the date of administering the new survey is,
We would like to proceed, obviously the holidays, we don't want to do that during the holidays, so either we would like to have survey completed in January, so we would send a notice out in December, so parents would have an entire week to, again, opt out. We've received, because of the attention that this has gotten, a lot of the increased opt-outs were actually from our control schools that are yet to be surveyed. So, in that way, we really feel like parents have gotten that. That being said, we definitely want to give parents an additional, especially since this recommendation came as well, give parents the additional chance to opt out again.
so I'm asking, on what date will we send a communication to parents saying that there will be a survey, and you've got between this date and that date to opt in or out, and then the survey is conducted
January. So
on
looking at-
a later date? What are those dates?
Wait a minute, before
if
you
we
answer.
know.
We have a motion that we need to get on, and you're on to something different.
Well, I'm trying to
So,
continue
yeah,
the
but you need to
discussion.
stop, and let's get this one motion taken care of with the 4720. So, board members, is there any more discussion on the motion to update 4720 and send it back to the policy committee? Okay, let's vote on that. All in favor of sending the policy 4720 back to the policy committee, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, so that motion carries. Now, Mr. Harrison, you can carry on your discussion.
So I would be working with CCS administration to identify an exact date, but I would assume, I honestly don't have a calendar in front of me, but I would propose that we would look at the second week of December and have that entire week, obviously after the vote is made, to continue that. And then we would start surveying in January.
We felt it would be precipitous to schedule a message going out to parents saying that the survey is going to go on before you all have weighed in on this topic that you've indicated that you wanted to weigh in on. So the idea of putting dates on a calendar to schedule such a thing would be presumptive on everyone's part. So we'll wait for your direction on that.
Can I make a motion to approve moving forward with asking parents permission as they were going to before administering the survey? Fine with that.
I'm not sure. What do you mean by that? Asking their permission? Are you asking for opt-in or opt-out, or I'm not sure how you're structuring the motion.
I just want us to approve the continuation of what they had a plan to notify parents, to send specific notice. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Given the circumstances, we can't go back to the beginning of the year. So in this case, I'm fine with notifying parents, et cetera, and then moving forward with the new survey minus all the opt-outs.
All right. So Mr. Powell makes the motion that we approve the revised trail survey with advanced parental notification. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Is there a second to Mr. Powell's motion?
I'll second that.
All right. Ms. Carpenter makes a second. Is there any more discussion on the trail survey?
The
Ms.
only thing,
Carpenter?
you know what I want? I want to make sure that, and you said you would make sure we did it, that in the future, if there's anybody comes up with any newbies surveys they want to do, that this board knows about it. And you said you'd make sure we knew that. So as long as we know that, I'm good.
All right. Let's vote. Is all in favor of approving the trail survey with advanced parental notification? And Mr. Basilis and Ms. Shepherd will work on that. Yes, sir.
The motion was to notify parents of the new survey in advance of the survey.
Yeah.
Are you modifying that to also include that the revised trail survey be approved as presented?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'd asked for the clarification, to make sure we got that in there. All right, so all in favor of approving trail survey with the advanced parental notification, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, that motion carries 6-0. That moves us on to the approval of the budget amendments. Ms. Klutz.
Yes, sir. There was a small correction on the federal in the description line, and that's been adjusted. So I'll answer any questions that you have.
Board members, I'll open this up. There were just a couple minor corrections to that budget amendment
Just the description.
with the Title 3 being Title 1 and the Title 3 being the Title 2. Was that, if I remember correctly?
The middle one that's displaying is accurately described as Title 2, and the bottom one is accurately described as Title 1 now, correctly.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
All right. Ms. Fartenball makes the motion. Mr. Harrison seconds that motion. Any more discussion on the budget amendment? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the budget amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, that motion carries 6-0. That carries us to the approval of policy 4400, attendance on the second reading. Ms. Reimer is coming to the podium. Board members, do you have questions for Ms. Reimer? And Ms. Burns? Here you are. Is there a motion?
Review one more time what the change is. Why are we changing this policy?
So we, under number 3, in blue, we added the language with consideration to lost educational time as described in section E, excessive absences. And then we also had our attorney, Mr. Schwartz, added under section E, the absences resulting from suspension or expulsion from schools shall not be used for compulsory attendance violations.
Is there a motion to approve policy 4400?
Make a motion to approve.
All right. Ms. Furtenbaugh makes the motion. Mr. Harrison seconds it. Any more discussion on 4400? Let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, 4400 is passed. That gets us, and that was on the second reading, and now we're at the approval of the school improvement plans. Mr. Matthew Fail is coming to the podium to answer questions.
Answer questions, and again, thank the schools and their school teams for all their hard work. Do you have any questions about the school improvement plans?
Board members, I'll turn it over to you. Mr. Walter, I see you would like to start up.
So currently we have, on our website, we have the school improvement plans from last year. You're going to add the new ones there. What do we do with the old ones? Do we update those before we?
So you brought that to my attention earlier, and I'm glad you did. That is not something we've done in the past. However, since you mentioned that, I've already been converting the end of the year for 16-17 into PDFs, and we will update those so that you have the end of the year plans updated and posted on the website as well as the new plans.
Yeah, because you want to see if the schools have accomplished those goals or if they haven't. So.
Exactly, yes. Makes perfectly good sense, no problem.
And then the other question I had, if you go and review these things, you've got a couple different formats in there. They're not all consistent. And can you go over why that is again?
Yes, there are 2 templates. One template is the Cabarrus County Schools School Improvement Plan template. The other template is required by the state and is used from a company called Industar, and is required for our low-performing schools to use that template and that process.
Are they really different? Is there a big difference between the two, or is it?
There are, if you look at both of the plans, you'll notice that there are quite a few similarities in the sense that you'll still have goals, you're still going to have action plans, with steps and who's responsible and the date completed, all those kinds of things. You're still going to have a strategy, what they're trying to accomplish, in other words. Probably the biggest difference is how they come up with those goals. In the Industar plan, they have different criteria that they have to assess, and then based on that assessment, they take their lowest areas and then they write their goals towards that assessment. That assessment is coupled with the data we provide them from EOGs and satisfaction surveys and all those components. In our planning phase, we use the end of the year data around your EOGs, your TRCs, your EOCs, your attendance, your discipline, your satisfaction surveys, et cetera, for them to write their goals and develop their strategies.
Ms. Carpenter?
I got the answer to my question, but I think it'd be good for our viewing audience to hear this, even though you've already answered my question. Because and a lot of us heard this that were at the conference in Greensboro, because we had that went to some of the classes, but talking about how the SIP plan, I know a lot of the people that, especially that worked making these SIP plans, that if they're worked after they're made up, in other words, did they just sit on the shelf and gather dust, or are they working them, and how often are they working them? And if you could share that with our viewing audience, I think that would be very helpful, because in some of our classes, they were talking about that they worked their plan like every 2 weeks. They were seeing, have we met this objective, or are we doing this? But if you could tell how often or what some of our schools do with their plan and how often they work it.
Sure, and I'm going to ask Dr. Hill to come up and share that in detail, because curriculum instruction really works very, very closely with our schools throughout their implementation, as well as our principal evaluators throughout that process. It's also somewhat tiered, if I can speak to that. So if a school is identified low performing, they're going to get a much higher level of support and intervention, if you will, than a school who is performing at a much higher level and achieving growth and that sort of thing. The lowest, or say the easiest level of intervention and support, is that at the very least, everyone presented in front of our senior leaders, their data, their strategies, etc. Everyone at mid-year is expected to report on their data and indicate whether they're progressing or not progressing on each of the indicators that they've identified as those mid-year benchmarks. And then at the end of the year, they must report as well and identify whether or not they've met those goals. So I'll let her speak more to that higher level intervention.
Thank you. So the school improvement plan is a living and breathing document, and schools and their school improvement teams work together to develop those plans, and the school improvement team meets at least once a month to review their plan and other things that are going on in their school. Specific supports that are taking place with our schools. This year we've implemented teaching and learning teams where schools bring their teams. The principal has to be a required member and at least 4 to 5 other members that come. And when they come, they're with us for an entire day, but for an hour and a half, we're focused on reviewing their benchmark data. We're teaching schools how to go through to analyze their data, to build plans, to make sure that they're addressing the needs. Additionally, as Mr. Fales shared, that at the beginning of the year, every school came and presented their data to Cabinet and presented their data along with their growth and their action plans. As part of the Human Resources Department, the principal evaluator meets monthly at the principal's school to review several things in the school improvement plan, and the action steps that are a part of that school improvement plan are part of that individual principal's evaluation. So we're working very closely with our schools to move the needle in school improvement and just total school improvement as addressed in their school improvement plans.
I have a question, and Dr. Hill, you might want to stay up here. Not to put either one of you on the spot, but after they update the plan, does that document actually live somewhere where you can see the updated document, or do you actually just update a plan, but you don't document it on your SIP plan so that you can see how you're progressing and what measures you're actually accomplishing? Or
Right. So there's actually 2 methods depending on the template you're using. In InduStar, as they update the plans, they're actually adding steps as they go through. They can write them for the complete year, but in general, they do them for between a quarter to mid-year, and they just kind of update that as they go along. So the changes, they're just additions. In the other template, as you look through them from last year, I'll make sure those get posted, you'll see 2 different ways that they're updated. One is considered a strike-through. So they did all this planning, if you will. They made these huge plans or whatever. They get to a certain point and they reflect and they say, I'm not really sure we want to do that. it's intentional change where they're changing that particular direction or they've decided to change that step, they will strike through it. And then if they add anything additional, they do it in a different color. Usually it's blue or green to denote this has been added since the plan was originally approved. So that way you can see the living and breathing concept throughout the plan as they make changes and adjustments. Does that answer your question?
Mr. Powell?
So I was reading through these SIP plans, and it seems like every single one has at least one goal that has to do with EOGs or EOCs. Is that correct? Maybe
I
talk
would-
about that and why that's so important.
Well, obviously, one of the major purposes of our education system is to educate our students, do the very best we can to help those students achieve at the highest levels. The measures that we used for that are primarily academics, and those are measured through TRCs, EOGs, EOCs, as well as a few other measures. So I would just argue that that's one of our primary purposes, and everyone wants to see their children successful.
Mr. Harrison?
And just for the viewing audience, all of this talk can sound very wonky, but it's really fascinating. But what's going on, again, for the listening and viewing audience, is that probably every teacher in every school and dozens of volunteer parents and other people involved with the school are working behind the scenes all year long to improve the outcomes per child. The SIP plans basically are unsung heroes of the schools working behind the scenes in a lot of meticulous kind of ways all year long. And if it,
yeah, I mean,
that's
if
what
you-
needs to be said for the benefit of all that work.
Right, and I think the easiest way to tell is walk into any school and just go stop by any classroom and say, what are you working on? Don't ask them what's in the school improvement plan. They may forget that verbiage, but ask them what they're working on. They're going to tell you they're working on implementing PBS or they're implementing balanced literacy, whatever it is that those key strategies are within that school. They're going to be able to tell you what they're working on.
And the best people to ask in the school are the kiddos. Ask them what they're working on, and they're always ready to share exactly what they're working on and why they're doing it. Our teachers do an excellent job.
Is each school required to have an EOG or an EOC goal, something that relates to those goals?
This year, we asked all of our schools to make sure that they had an academic goal as it relates to an assessment area, yes.
Board members, is there a motion now to approve the school improvement plans as presented? Mr. Harrison makes the motion. Mr. Walter seconds that motion. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the SIP plans as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, that motion carries 6-0. And that moves us to the approval of a class size waiver for the district enhancement classes. Ms. Glenda Jones is coming to talk to us a little bit about it.
All
I
right,
think
we
we've already talked about it, but
We have, and I've uploaded had Eileen upload the form for you so that you can see that. And if you look at the form, it's just the state form that allows districts for the first time to put in a waiver for the enhancement classes, which are made up of, you can read the top of that, arts disciplines, including dance, music, theater, and the visual arts, PE and health and world languages. And as shared with you last time, the fact that we have dual immersion that can at times cause us to have a little bit higher number in our enhancement classes, as well as principals trying to give more flexibility with planning can cause us to be over. And if you have 8 like second and third grade classrooms and you end up with a 6-day rotation or a 7-day rotation, then you could have 24 students in there or 25 students in the classroom as opposed to 23 or something. So any questions?
board members, you see that we have the official document that Dr. Lauder will be signing. So are there any other questions on this class size waiver? Is there a motion to approve it?
Just a quick question. There are 117 districts around the state. Is that correct? 115, 100,
115.
115. I suspect
Excuse me, you're exactly right.
one. Okay, so I suspect there's 116 of these.
I have no idea how many are going in, Mr.
but we're getting
Harrison,
ours
but
in.
there are a great number, I'm sure.
Okay. Thanks very much. I mean, that's an indication of how much this matters to the management of the schools. Move to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Second.
Mr. Harrison makes the motion, Mrs. Carpenter seconds it. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the class size waiver, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. That motion carries 6-0. That moves us on to the naming of the new high school. And board members, could you hand this down? Just so that this is the list that I provided to y'all. The summary. Okay. Yeah, here, give it to, you can pass this down. There you go. Yeah, Chair. All right, board members, as you know, we had, in our viewing audience, we had a total of 78 applications for naming of the new high school. Of that number, that 78, there were actually 51 unique names in the 78, so there were a lot of names that were repeated throughout. What we talked about in the last meeting was the board members were asked to select their top 4 or 5 names that that they felt like best suited the naming of the new high school, and I tallied that up so that we would have that. And board members, I have that before you. So I'll now open this up to discussion. As you can see, there were 3 names that came to the top. That in this multi-voting or whatever you want to call it process, that we had Cottle Creek High School, Weddington Hills High School, and West Cabarrus High School were the top getters or top vote getters in this survey of the board members. There were a number of other names also on that list. So
Can that be displayed on the screen for the
what this? I didn't make this up until this afternoon, so no.
There's no way to put it up on board docs or the screen?
Unless someone can.
I mean, it's on an email form, isn't it?
Never mind, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I could send it. Huh?
We'd have to make a document and then load it. It would take time.
To load it into board docs, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you could just read off the names that the board members came up with.
Yeah.
Like anything that was more than one.
Yeah. Well, I'll read off all the names that the board members
members came up
submitted. All right, so the names that were submitted to by all the board members off of the original 78 and then reduced to actually 51 unique names were Afton Run High School, Afton Poplar High School, Christopher R. Barton High School, Cottle Creek High School, Freedom High School, Great Road High School, J. Scott Pageant High School, L.B. Marsh High School, Minot High School, Stagecoach Road High School, Warren C. Coleman High School, Weddington Hills High School, West Cabarrus High School, and West Poplar High School. So those were the choices that were that the board members submitted out of the groups out of the 58 that or 51 unique names that we had. So board members, I'll offer it up to you for your discussion. Does anybody have any comments that they'd like to make or any recommendations that they'd like to make out of this list?
Mr. Chairman, in thinking about how students refer to their schools, and to have, I'll say, easy naming and whatnot, and also recognition from the location, I personally, I voted for as one of my options and prefer the name West Cabarrus High School.
Okay. Ms. Furtenbaugh is suggesting West Cabarrus. Are you making that a formal motion, or are we just still discussing? Okay.
Yeah, well, that's,
we can discuss.
get other people's comments.
Anyone else want to offer some comments? Do they have a preference?
Well,
Ms. Carpenter?
and again, it's kind of like the top two, because personally, I like the Weddington Hills High. And again, that's the top two choices of what the board, again, giving direction. And we've got the Weddington Hills Elementary right across the street. And again, I would like to thank all the people that submitted the names of the individuals. And we're not trying to say one person is better than another person, because all the names that were submitted were great individuals, and they all have contributed to our community. And again, there'll be other opportunities, because a lot of times there's ball fields and other things that will be named, and we've done that. But again, I think the Weddington Hills High, and it is Weddington Road. And again, we've all mentioned how we like to give directions, and I think both of these names does that. The West Cabarrus does that, but also the Weddington Hills. Again, we've got the Weddington Hills Elementary, and I personally like that name and offer that up as a suggestion also. But either one of those names I could live with. But I think both of them gives the direction. We both have decided we know it's west, so we do know that. But again, we do appreciate everybody, as we got plenty of suggestions when we asked for them, and we do appreciate that from our viewing audience.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Mr. Harrison?
If I were a high school athlete or a member of the band at that high school, I would feel like I could rally around West Cabarrus High School very well, and that whatever the school colors and other material that the school puts together could be worked around that name fairly well. So I prefer and would vote for West Cabarrus High School.
Okay.
We're going to have a
Mr.
lot
Walter?
of, several of the students going to the school are from Northwest Cabarrus, so that would probably make some sense. But it looks like we do have at least a consensus on West Cabarrus High School, so I'd be supportive of that as well.
Okay.
My general thoughts are, that's just boring, but I don't know how difficult it is to locate a high school anymore. I played sports all through high school, and we never had any trouble finding. I went to South Stokes High School, and that was, as boring as it gets. But I think, there's enough educators in the county that have put, dedicated their life to service in the county, or perhaps outside the county, or whatever, that I think we can do a little better than a directional name of, or attaching it to a road, or that kind of thing. But that's just my general thoughts. Now, do I have any better suggestions? I mean, Scott Padgett's name was listed as many as any. Russell Olson was listed as multiple times. I know they've contributed heavily to the community and the county. That's kind of where my mind starts, is to find somebody who has contributed in a significant way to the educational environment in the county, and start the discussion there. But that's just kind of my thoughts.
Go ahead, Ms. Carpenter.
The only thing I worry about, and with putting, we've got Central Cabarrus, got Northwest Cabarrus, and we're using Cabarrus, and I know this is Cabarrus, don't get me wrong, I understand that, and that was why I wanted to do Weddington Hills, because it did kind of put something different on it. And that was, because we got Cabarrus in so many of them, and I thought that made it a little different. And again, I thought that made it a little different. And you mentioned Mr. Pageant, and he's already got a road named after him, so he's got his name already put somewhere, so he's already known. So we've already got a landmark after him, so he's going to be known for a while. So he's got it something named after him.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
these 6 people up here can spend some time right now putting our sense of the identity of this new school on this school, or we can let the students, the families, the parents, the boosters, the teachers, and the principal of that new school create their own identity. I suggest that we let them create their own identity with something like West Cabarrus High School, as opposed to imposing an identity from the 6 of us.
Well, we still have to name the school, so.
Correct. And I'm saying that the identity of something like West Cabarrus High School would be broad enough that they could establish their own identity, as opposed to us imposing
So
that.
you're talking like the mascot, things like of that.
Whatever
nature.
it might be.
I mean, I don't think we
think we
don't
could-
set that stuff.
Whatever it might be.
All right.
It's up to the school.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make a note. I too appreciated reading all of the, when we got a copy of everything people sent, it wasn't summarized. We summarized it, some of us on our own, but we got a copy of everything. So I appreciated reading all the stories, and I actually went to Wikipedia a few times to look up some of the historical references that there were. And board members, I sent you a little snippet off of Google Maps for Weddington High School in Union County is on Weddington Road. That's, as I mentioned before, Ms. Carpenter, that concerns me that there would be 2 names that would be so close. On the same school name, same road. I think when everything gets rolled up to the state level, it's going to get confusing. And even for people, I believe, what did I calculate? It was like 38 miles apart from doing the mapping. So that's my leaning. I mean, Weddington Hills is fine, although, as Mr. Harrison said, when the kids get around, what are they going to nickname Weddington Hills? Because that's quite a long name. For
WHHS?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it'll be. It'll be abbreviated.
WCHS, so.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, well, they would just call it West, most likely, just like they call it Central. And South Stokes is probably South, right, Vince? It's just referred to as South. So, anyways, I'd like to make the motion to name the new high school West Cabarrus High School.
Second.
All right, board members, there's a motion by Ms. Furtenbaugh and a second by Mr. Harrison to name the high school West Cabarrus High School. We're open up for discussion. If there is any more discussion.
I think we can do better.
Well, all right, thank you, Mr. Powell. I looked at this list long and hard, and I will, in my own viewpoint, there are a lot of really wonderful people that were represented here. We had some historical people for Cabarrus County. We have people who are currently living and doing things in Cabarrus County and making a real difference. This was a hard decision for me to try to decide which one I really wanted to go with. Like I said, we had 78 submissions. And actually, we're going to begin right after tonight accepting more requests for names because we have a new elementary school going up in the southwest part of our county. So we'll be starting that process as soon as, I guess I'll officially announce it here. We'll go ahead and start accepting names for the new elementary school, but I don't know when we'll stop accepting. We'll have to talk about that as a board. But we will need that done. So, but anyway, we have a motion before us to name this West Cabarrus High School. Personally, I would have liked to seen it Weddington Hills because I think it's indicative of the area that it's in. And that even though it's West Cabarrus, right now Cox Mill is further west than West Cabarrus is, and it's named after a road. But I feel like, there would not be that much confusion. Hickory Ridge, where I coached swimming and went to many state events, there was a Hickory High School that we competed against. There wasn't a lot of confusion. We knew the difference between each of the schools, so I didn't really see that as a real issue.
I'll make the substitute motion for Weddington Hills.
Well,
But Hickory High School was not on Hickory, on the same road.
right. Yeah. But, so anyway, we have a motion before us, and let's vote.
Chair, you have a substitute motion, didn't get a second?
Oh, did you make a substitute
Yeah,
motion?
for Weddington
Oh, okay.
Hills.
Ms. Carpenter has made a substitute motion for Weddington Hills.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll second that. So now we got to vote on the substitute before we vote on the motion to see if the substitute's going to substitute the original one. All right, so board members, we have a substitute motion for WHHS,
WHHS.
and so, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the substitute motion for WHHS, say aye. Aye. So we have 3. All opposed, say nay. Nay. All right, so you have 3 nays.
3-3.
So it's 3-3. So I guess now we go back to the original motion, which is, that motion fails. So we have the original motion of West Cabarrus High School. Ms. Furtenbaugh made and Mr. Harrison seconded. All in favor of the new high school on Weddington Road being named West Cabarrus High School, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Wow, yeah, we gotta go with
Yeah, all opposed, say nay. All right, so we have a 5-1 vote, and so we'll now call the new high school West Cabarrus High School on Weddington Road. All right, Dr. Louder is going to present or Ms. Reimer is going to present the recommendation regarding Royal Oaks boundaries. Oh, all right. Ms. Reimer, we're going to take a 5-minute bio break.
Sir,
We can take 5 minutes.
we're going to take 5 minutes? Awesome.
Boy, we're going to take a 5-minute recess so you can stretch your legs, get the blood flowing again. All right, we're back from recess, and we're about to pick up with item number 10, 10.1, which is the Royal Oaks boundary recommendation. And Ms. Reimer is going to lead us through this. Thank you.
So as the Deputy Superintendent of Operations, part of my responsibility is looking at boundaries for schools. And so with that, I worked with some people within the district to create a committee. That committee was comprised of over 35 members, which you'll see their names in just a minute. Excuse me. Each school that could possibly be impacted had a principal, a staff member, and a parent present in those meetings, and they had a committee decision statement. And that decision statement was that we had to decide on a recommendation for the superintendent concerning the boundaries for Royal Oaks Elementary School. Again, we said committee members, over 35 of them. A lot of them are here tonight. I want to say thank you to those people that spent a lot of time, a lot of effort. They took the process very seriously. They were committed to doing what we asked them to do. A very special thanks to my staff as well, who spent countless hours trying to provide all the information and data for every session at last minute. And so I thank all of the committee members as well as my staff. Thank you. Since the Board of Education Information and Feedback session on October 2nd, we have had 5 school and community feedback sessions. We collected data and questions at those sessions. We addressed community questions, and we created an FAQ page on our website. Board of Education also held a public hearing on November 6th, and from that we collected data and questions again. The School Planning and Organization Committee met twice last week. The committee discussed every single data point collected at all 5 meetings and at the public hearing. We provided our committee with over 16 pages front and back of the exact data points that we collected. From that data and from the hearings and from what we heard from our community, we formed 2 additional scenarios. We analyzed and compared those 6 scenarios to each other, and then we conducted a risk analysis of the potential recommendation to the superintendent. We have 6 remaining scenarios that the committee's reviewed. You can see A, B, and C. Here were the ones that the committee originally came up with after our first few meetings. Scenario D was added on October 2nd at the information session at the board meeting. Scenario E and F were the 2 I just referenced. Those were added last week, and we'll talk about each one of these individually as we go through them. Scenario A, as many of you know, Area 1 is down in the bottom left. It moves 217 Boger students to Wyankoff, and Area 2 moves 234 Wyankoff students to Royal Oaks. In Scenario A, it was able to maximize program choice seats, but failed to adequately address responsible use of taxpayer dollars, sharing of resources, and contributed most to neighborhood disruptions. Scenario B moved 99 Royal Oaks students to Irvin, and Area 2, 387 Beverly Hills students to Royal Oaks. Scenario B minimized collateral impact to other schools and also did well considering the needs of all students and families. Impact on staff and the implementation of the 10-year plan were also strong. However, the balance of our SES was weaker in this scenario. Scenario C, Area 1 moves 79 Beverly Hills students to Wyankoff, moves 308 Beverly Hills students to Royal Oaks. Scenario C rated highly in responsible use of taxpayer dollars, implementation of the 10-year plan, sharing of resource, and impact on staff. Scenario D was again added on October 2nd. This moves 79 Beverly Hills students to Wyankoff in Area 1. Area 2 moves 308 Beverly Hills students to Royal Oaks, and Area 3 moves 99 Royal Oaks students to Irvin. Scenario D was very similar to Scenario C, except for where it rated slightly lower in responsible use of taxpayer dollars and maximizing the best interest of all families. Scenario E, this was created Tuesday. Area 1 moves 79 Beverly Hills students to Wyankoff. Area 2 moves 308 Beverly Hills students to Royal Oaks. Area 3 moves 71 Royal Oaks students to Irvin. And Area 4, this is the change, moves 28 Royal Oaks students to Mount Pleasant. These were students that are temporarily placed at Mount Pleasant from the Royal Oaks families that were moved to Boger during the construction. Scenario E was very similar to Scenario C and D. However, E continued to rise above the others in the best interest of all families, maximizing program choice seats, use of logical boundaries, and minimizing neighborhood disruption. Scenario F was if we choose to do nothing, no students are moved. The committee felt very strongly after listening to the communities, listening to our public hearing, and looking at all the data that we should look at this scenario and rate it against the other plans. Scenario F did very well minimizing collateral impact to other schools and minimizing neighborhood disruption, but fell short in meeting all other criteria. The committee was charged with these major 3 things: using data to select a scenario that best meets the criteria while understanding the emotion involved in redistricting, deciding if a recommendation is acceptable considering the risks, and following a process to support a well-thought-out analytical decision. School Planning Organization Committee is recommending Scenario E to the superintendent. Area 1 moves 79 students from Beverly Hills to Wyankoff. Area 2 moves 308 students from Beverly Hills to Royal Oaks. Area 3 moves 71 students from Royal Oaks to Irvin. And Area 4 moved 28 students from Royal Oaks to Mount Pleasant. Dr. Lauder, that is our committee's recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Reimer. First, I would like to thank Ms. Reimer, our Deputy Superintendent, and all of her group for all of the hard work that was involved with coordinating and facilitating the redistricting plan. Ms. Reimer, Ms. Mull, Ms. Gomez, and Ms. Lauder all worked tirelessly to help facilitate this process. It is very difficult and hard work, and I really appreciate all that you guys did to make this happen, so thank you very much. Second, I would like to thank everyone that served on the committee. Our principals, staff, and parents gave up many, many hours of their lives to make this happen. They took it all very seriously and tried to come up with the best recommendation. I truly appreciate all of your effort and hard work. Next, I would like to thank all of the community that has participated in the process. We live in a great community with tremendous support for our schools and school system. The vast majority of people that participated in this process have been very respectful, and I appreciate their engagement and the way they conducted themselves. In reviewing all of our choices, there are many things to consider. Our highest priority is the over 32,000 students and trying to provide them with the best educational experience and environment that we can. We also have a responsibility to our 4,000 employees, 2,400 of which are teachers in Cabarrus County Schools. We have to try to provide them with the best environment we can possibly provide so they can teach and students can learn. We're charged to do both of these as efficiently and fiscally responsible as we possibly can. The map that you can see in front of you for Scenario E is very logical. While the possible consolidation of Beverly Hills has certainly been controversial and emotional, it would have been irresponsible if the map in front of you would not have been considered. Once we thoroughly examined where the students lived and learned that it was possible for the student population to be absorbed without overcrowding any schools, it was necessary to be considered. It was especially important knowing that the Beverly Hills building was not scheduled to be replaced in the Cabarrus County Schools 10-year plan. Numerous people who disagreed with the plan in the public meetings came up afterwards and said, when we look at the maps, we understand why you're making this recommendation. We get it. It makes sense. We just hope that you don't do it. After examining all the options, I'm accepting the committee's recommendation and making the same recommendation for Scenario E to the school board. Regardless of what the board decides, we will move forward with the decision and do the best job that we can with our students. If the board chooses Scenario E, then Ms. Marsh and her staff will be ready to make the transition as smooth as possible. If the board chooses another option, then the best teaching and learning we can provide will continue regardless of the location. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Louder, for your recommendation. And board members, we now have before us a recommendation for Scenario E. We now have still several more weeks to ponder this decision to get more information and study the outputs. And probably, I'm sure, each of you has a lot more questions that you'll want answered or a little bit more information to support Dr. Louder's recommendation or a recommendation that you may come up with on your own. So I'll open it up to the floor for anyone else who wishes to offer any comments. Ms. Burtonbaugh?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted, I guess, to comment to the community that even though we don't comment during public hearing, during that process, I think we each, in each of our ways, have asked for additional data, clarifications, sometimes probably to the detriment of Ms. Reimers and her staff's time. But we've tried to look at this in all different ways, and I'm still not convinced of what, like Chairman Shoemaker has said, we have some time yet to ask more questions, but I've learned a lot more about moving and redistricting, and I thought I had been through plenty of redistrictings, but we keep learning about what's important and what's responsible and how things flow with buses and how many walkers there really are, and academic performance. We've looked at every angle we possibly can. So I just want the public to know that we've really tried, we've really studied this issue. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burtonbaugh. Did you want to say something, Ms. Carpenter? Yeah.
Well, I was curious on the area 4, the 28. Is that the same area that was referred to by the speaker we had earlier? Can anyone answer me that question?
So those 28 are the students that are currently attending Mount Pleasant Elementary. So it does include them. Is it exactly what he said as far as which, I can't speak to that because I'd have to speak to him to get his exact location. But those 28 students are currently attending Mount Pleasant. Yes.
Because I know I had been getting some emails, Gregory Road, and I didn't know if that was that same area.
It is. It's very similar. Gregory Road's up in the upper right-hand corner of that area 4.
But I didn't know if that was the same or if it was more or less. So I'd be kind of interested to know if that is that same area.
Yeah, Ms. Carpenter, I just want to note, I think we all received, sometimes we don't know who people blind copied on emails, but there was one request, I believe it was a mom who wrote to us that said, I understand if you want to move that she referred to Gregory Road as well, Gregory Road area to stay at Mount Pleasant. However, would it be possible for my children with family-provided transportation to stay at Royal Oaks? We've been looking forward to going back to our new school. And so that's something as a board we should consider as an automatic transfer request. Allow, if we vote on that, allow staff to just automatically approve those requests.
But wouldn't you have to do that for the whole Area 3 as well?
The scenario E, Area 3 actually goes to Irvin,
Yeah.
and Area 4 does go to Mount Pleasant.
But that's something I guess
We'll have to
we
talk
could
about.
monitor if they want to go to Royal Oaks with their own transportation, I guess.
So that would definitely be something that the board would recommend and make a decision. We would just ask that if that's something you choose to do, that we do require our families to at least fill the paperwork out so we know where kids are going, if you guys decide that.
Okay, but I was just curious if that was the same group. Okay.
Any more comments, board members? Mr. Harrison?
Dr. Reimer, you and your team deserve a great deal of credit and a great deal of admiration and a great deal of respect and a great deal of thanks for your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Powell?
So when this process started, I kind of had an idea that I would go to the Beverly Hills community meeting, and because I thought that would be, number one, the most interesting, and it set up well for my schedule, and I, just couldn't make it to the others. So I got to tell you, I was just extremely disappointed in how those parents were treated at that meeting. I don't think they were, given the opportunity to, one, voice their concerns in a kind of an open format. Ultimately, it was. I don't think that was the plan going in. And, I know Ms. Reimer did an excellent job, and Tim did a great job with the logistics of why the school maybe doesn't need to be replaced and this and that. But to not go in with a plan to address the emotional attachment of that school community to that building was surprising to me. And after maybe 3 or 4 people, then it was kind of a feeble attempt to address it, in hindsight. But I didn't hear from folks that I thought maybe I was going to hear from. But anyway, that was just, my heart went out to them because, you could tell they really weren't, in my opinion, weren't being valued like they should have. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Mr. Walter, do you have any comments that you'd like to share?
Well, I'm still digesting the recommendation here, but I was also at the parade, and I've seen the hundreds of signs that are around here, and there's a big support for this school. I guess some of my concerns, again, are the STEM program that we sold to students and got the students encouraged about STEM, and then we're taking that away from a good portion of them.
So we're absolutely not taking anything away from them. We're giving them the opportunity.
Explain that to me, please.
Yes, so.
Let's be respectful.
Okay, so the students, if this were a decision you guys were to make, we have only 158 students at Beverly Hills have filled out any kind of information saying that they want STEM at all. And they've had numerous communications about that, so that's the process they would have to follow. We have 158 students.
We put out a survey that asks them if they want
No,
STEM?
it's our process, our program choice process that they're currently in and have done and been through. So our renewals, that means the students that are currently at Beverly Hills that want it again, as well as any of the students that actually reside there that want it. total of 158 out of 424 students. We currently have plenty of seats to take all of those students to Wyckoff if they so choose. So they would still be allowed to have STEM. And then the remaining students would have space at Royal Oaks. So we would have a program, a STEM program, just as what we promised them. We never promised any student that they would have the facility in which the program's in.
Okay, I understand that point, but you're saying Wyckoff here, on your scenario here, has, it looks like only about 50 seats left. So where's the 100?
I'm not sure what you're saying by here, but remember you're looking at resident students if you're looking at a data sheet, resident students that's.
I'm looking at the option E data sheet there.
The data sheet, yes. So the data sheet means resident students that are not students that are currently attending Royal Oaks. So those are the students that live within that boundary. So Wyckoff currently has 779, I think, off the top of my head, students, capacity of 920 with extra pre-K rooms. So we would have plenty of space for the 158 kids or more that would choose STEM. Even in the worst case scenario, if all 424 students at Beverly Hills decided they wanted STEM, we would figure a place for them to receive STEM. So we're not taking STEM away from any student at Beverly Hills.
Okay. I'm still digesting them. I have more questions.
And so, Dr. Reimer, what is the deadline form, hopefully more than that 158, to voice an interest in STEM?
That we'll let Dr. Hill answer. That's through program choice, so she's going to look that up right now.
I mean, so we're saying, as best as we know right now, 158.
That is correct. The deadline is passed, but I think they've kept it open anyway, but I don't want to misspeak. That's in curriculum instruction, so be very.
So I would hope that we would keep promoting the
Sure.
availability of that program.
We can answer all those. Anything that I don't have the answer to tonight, happy to get with our staff, and we'll get you an answer as soon as possible. Any questions you have beyond this, we'll work very hard this week to make sure you get those answers.
More so than me getting the answer is I'd like the public to get the answer and
Yes, sir.
to be able to act on that information.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, board members, any more comments? Ms. Reimer, thank you. Board members, it's time for a motion to go into closed session. And board needs to convene in closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney or employed retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, and pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, and conditions of initial employment of a public officer or employee, and to hear and investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance against the officer or employee, and to review personal recommendations. Also pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A5 to discuss matters concerning the position to be taken by the board in negotiating terms for the acquisition of real property. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Ms. Carpenter makes the motion.
Second.
And Ms. Furtenball seconds that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of going into closed session say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And the board is now in closed session.